Tiffany stands as one of the most fascinating and tragic characters in the Hellraiser franchise. Since being first introduced in Hellbound, Hellraiser 2, she has undergone the journey from an autistic and mute patient at the Channard Institution to a dangerous warrior against Hell's forces, and eventually being transformed into a Cenobite. Her journey tells the story of Hellraiser's signature themes of trauma, survival, and sacrifice. Her story also explores the depths of human resilience, making her one of the central figures in Hellraiser lore. In this video, we will go through Tiffany's transformative journey and how she became a harrower, then a Cenobite from an innocent mute girl. We will also explore how, in spite of all the tragedy associated with her life, Tiffany imposes her own human will and escapes the clutches of Hell and its agents. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin. Tiffany's early life, a child of tragedy. Tiffany's tragic story begins in her early childhood, long before she even crossed paths with the Cenobites. Tiffany was named by one of the hospital nurses, as the girl never spoke to anyone, leaving her real name unknown. She was definitely a gifted child with a natural aptitude for solving puzzles, but her talent was a source of both fascination and exploitation. Her mother got really concerned about Tiffany's obsession with puzzles and sought psychiatric help from Dr. Philip Channard, a rather ambitious and morally bankrupt psychologist running the Channard Institution. This single decision would prove to be catastrophic for little Tiffany. Her mother had no idea that Dr. Channard was not just any psychologist, but also a borderline lunatic who was intensely obsessed with unlocking the mysteries of Hell. To fulfill this cause, Channard even used his patients as tools for his devilish experiments. When he saw Tiffany, she became just another pawn in Channard's devil design. Sadly enough, her mother also fell victim to Channard's depravity, where she was tortured and ultimately killed in his relentless quest for the secrets of the Lament Configuration. This devastating loss marked the very beginning of Tiffany's psychological withdrawal. She was rendered mute by the trauma and retreated into extreme silence. Moreover, Tiffany had no other known family members or visitors apart from her mother, emphasizing her isolated nature. Despite this, her ability to focus intensely on puzzles and solve them with remarkable precision highlights her intelligence and unique way of interacting with the world. She only found refuge in her puzzles, which became a safe haven in a world that offered her no love. Her quiet brilliance became her survival mechanism, although it also made her a prime target for Channard's manipulations. The catalyst, solving the Lament Configuration. Tiffany's introduction in Hellbound Hellraiser 2 starts 6 months into her stay at the Channard Institution. Despite her apparent detachment from the world around her, she still possessed an unmatched ability to solve puzzles that caught Channard's attention. The doctor was desperately seeking to open the gateway to Hell when he was struck with the idea of trying Tiffany's puzzle-solving abilities to solve the Lament Configuration. As Channard predicted, Tiffany indeed solves the puzzle and the Cenobites emerge. As always, they had imagined finding a person filled with greed and lust or simply curiosity to open the box, but instead they were quite surprised to find an innocent girl holding the solved puzzle box. Pinhead, the leader of the Cenobites, quickly understood that it was not desire but manipulation that had summoned them. The Cenobites are not just responding to the act of solving the box, but are also attracted to the desires and fears of those involved. There was no desire, intention, or curiosity with Tiffany. She didn't even show any emotion when the Cenobites appeared around her. As a result, Tiffany is spared the wrath of the Cenobites. This particular moment tells us about a recurring theme in the franchise, which is about intent. While many who seek the box are driven by destructive desires, Tiffany has absolutely no idea what she is getting into by opening the box. She didn't even know what the box was for. She was merely guided by Channard's ambitions, and the Cenobites understood this. Descent into the labyrinth. Tiffany's journey through the labyrinth forced her to confront her deepest fears. The labyrinth, ruled by Leviathan, is shown as a constantly shifting landscape that reflects the torment of its inhabitants. For Tiffany, it manifested as a twisted carnival, which was nothing but an echo of her childhood memories. This carnival represented Tiffany's fractured frame of mind, a haunting reminder of her mother's murder and her own manipulation at the hands of Channard. But unlike many who just succumb to the labyrinth's psychological torment, Tiffany actually naturally demonstrated remarkable strength. She was resilient and adapted well while confronting and navigating her personal hell. These qualities would define her further journey in the Hellraiser franchise. In the course of her journey, she even finds an ally in the form of Kirsty, who is the protagonist of the original Hellraiser and a fellow victim of Hell's horrors. Their shared trauma became a reason for the formation of a bond of mutual trust between them. Kirsty is driven by a desire to rescue her father and confront the forces that had destroyed her family, and happened to find a partner in Tiffany whose silence spoke volumes. Together, they navigated the dangerous labyrinth while finding strength in one another. Closing the Gateway, a test of will. The climax of Tiffany's journey in Hellbound revolves around her ability to undo the damage caused by the Lament Configuration. Solving the puzzle box once had opened the gates of hell, but solving it again would close them. However, the task was far from easy. The test was now made extremely difficult by Pinhead, who had transformed the puzzle box into a diamond-shaped configuration that represented the ultimate challenge. But Tiffany was also adamant about solving the puzzle once again to close the doors of hell. As the Leviathan's influence loomed, her resolve was tested in ways she could never have imagined. Confronted by the memory of her mother's death and the monstrous Cenobite, she faced the full weight of her trauma. This test was not only about skill, but also about willpower and courage. Yet Tiffany never gave up. Her actions were driven by a determination to reclaim control over her life. In the course of events that follow, Leviathan, the god of hell, changes himself into a giant puzzle box, killing the Cenobite unintentionally in the process. Meanwhile, Tiffany and Kirsty narrowly managed to escape back to Earth through the closing Hell Gateway in a rather nail-biting thriller. With Kirsty's continued support, Tiffany was finally successful in reversing the gateway for good and sealing off the horrors of hell while also destroying the Cenobite. Double win for Tiffany. Poetic justice indeed. But can you really escape hell? Life after the labyrinth. Tiffany and Kirsty are finally able to escape from the labyrinth and emerge into the cool morning air, heavily exhausted but alive. As a symbol of their past horror, the asylum looms in the background. Tiffany looks at Kirsty, who smiles faintly. We made it. Kirsty is delighted. Having escaped the clutches of hell after the massive ordeal, Tiffany wants to make sure she has nothing to do with that wretched world anymore. She glances at the puzzle box in her hands, then tosses it into the distance. The duo walk away, leaving the horrors of the labyrinth behind. While the immediate threat was over, the psychological scars of what she went through were far from over. In the expanded Hellraiser lore, we come to know that Kirsty adopts Tiffany as a surrogate daughter as the latter goes on to channel her trauma into a higher purpose. Tiffany happens to join the Harrowers, which was a group of specially chosen humans dedicated to countering Hell's influence on Earth. It was led by Leviathan's sister, Mam, as an effort to counter her brother's army of Cenobites. Joining the rank of Harrowers provided Tiffany with a purpose which will take her on a further interesting course through the rest of her life. As a Harrower, Tiffany made it a mission to continuously find and destroy artifacts like the Lament Configuration. Her efforts were directed to make sure that nobody could have access to something like the puzzle, which people such as Channard used to manipulate her childhood and drag her into the jaws of hell. This purpose allowed her to transform her pain into strength by becoming a warrior against the very forces that had once brought her down. However, this new life came with its own peculiar challenges. Each time she encounters one of Hell's artifacts, Tiffany is forced to revisit the darkness she is working so hard to escape. Tragedy by choice. Tiffany gets transformed into a Cenobite. Tiffany's transformation into a Cenobite stands as one of the most tragic twists in her story. Once in her time as a Harrower, Tiffany is seen recruiting none other than Pinhead in his full human form into the ranks. Pinhead is shown to become fully human, leaving his Cenobite form for his human form Elliot Spencer, so Tiffany makes him join the group of humans on her foster mother Kirsty's suggestion. However, Spencer's real plans are revealed later when he tries to conspire with the Demon Lord in order to attain real power and fulfill his true mission to replace Leviathan. When Kirsty teams up with the occult detective Harry D'Amour to stop Spencer from achieving his goal, a war ensues. The duo is able to defeat him in this war, but Kirsty also gets imprisoned within a memory sphere alongside Spencer in Leviathan's realm. A year later, D'Amour is the new priest of Hell in the absence of both Pinhead and Kirsty, who are later freed by Tiffany, who agrees to transform herself into a Cenobite in the process. During a war with Abaddon's and invading forces combined with Spencer, D'Amour seeks to bolster his ranks by creating new Cenobites. Tiffany comes forward to volunteer, fully aware of the consequences that would follow. Her transformation into a Cenobite was a deliberate act of sacrifice, which serves as a stark contrast to the usual narrative of greed or desire that come along with the creation of Cenobites. Ironically enough, Tiffany's Cenobite form had a striking resemblance to her mother, serving as a chilling reminder of the trauma that had defined her life. She was unique in her own way. Unlike most Cenobites, Tiffany Tiffany still retained bits of her humanity. In fact, she becomes a living contradiction, a servant of hell driven by a desire to protect humanity. Kirsty's redemption, breaking the chains. Despite his plans, Abaddon's rebellion is quashed. This defeat leaves Leviathan in a position of dominance, allowing him to negotiate peace with both Kirsty and Spencer. Leviathan offers Kirsty and her allies, Harry, Damore, and Tiffany, a way out. Their humanity is restored, allowing them to leave the horrors of hell behind. Thanks to Kirsty, Tiffany finally returns to her human form. This symbolizes more than just a physical restoration. It was also a reclaiming of her soul, a proof of the power of compassion and loyalty in the face of the never-ending darkness. Tiffany being able to become a human again also adds a layer of hope to the otherwise grim Hellraiser franchise, proving that salvation is possible even in hell. Marvelous verdict. Tiffany's story is a mix of all the themes that define the Hellraiser franchise. Her character serves as both a symbol of resilience and an integral figure in the story's progression. Her journey from a victim to a warrior and then to a Cenobite reflects a deep exploration of trauma and its aftermath. The Lament Configuration, which was central to her story, serves as a symbolic representation of control and desire. For Tiffany, solving puzzles was a coping mechanism from the real world. However, in the context of hell, it became somewhat of a double-edged sword, where it served both as a means of survival and as a tool for unimaginable suffering. But Tiffany's story is all about overcoming this ill fate. Her evolution from a mute child, manipulated by forces beyond her control, to a warrior against hell's darkness is a testament to the strength of the human spirit. While most characters in the Hellraiser universe never had an ounce of control over their deeds, Tiffany is shown to repeatedly assert her will in the scheme of things. Whether by closing the gateway to hell or by choosing to become a Cenobite, her decisions always reflect a deep sense of responsibility and self-awareness, which goes on to show that human will and resilience is the most powerful tool of them all. And when it is applied to do good, there is no stopping it. Tiffany's story is perhaps the only silver lining in the Hellraiser franchise. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.